Hey, yo, what up? Welcome back. This is not a podcast. This is just my thoughts for Markman. Shout out to all y'all that watch and support the channel. Shout out to everybody that was checking out. Yesterday, I did a video on Drake, the National Treasure leaked that addressed DeMar DeRozan and his issue with DeMar. I did a whole video on that. And some people hit me in the middle of watching it. It got taken down. It got snatched off of the internet. I got hit with a copyright from UMG on YouTube, which is weird because I didn't use any of their audio. I didn't use any of the songs. Anybody who watches me knows I'm very cautious with that. I read out the lyrics. Still got hit with a copyright claim. I'm assuming it was a mistake, man. So I refuted it. Hopefully the video comes back. If not, we'll see what's up. But I appreciate all y'all for watching. Today we're gonna talk about Jay Electronica, man. So Jay Electronica had a busy weekend dropping new music. According to him, he delivered 19 albums to Jay-Z, and this weekend he released 3. A Written Testimony, Leaflets, is 1. A Written Testimony, Mars, the Inhabited Planet, is 2. And then there was an EP, A Written Testimony, Power at the Rate of My Dreams. And all of those 3 came out this weekend, as well as Act 2 got released on DSPs. That was the album that Jay Elect recorded around 2010, 2011, 2012. It was released in 2020 officially, but so this is kind of a re-release. You know, it's stuff that we had all heard, that the music that had been around on the blogs and the internet or whatever. So Leaflets, and they're all kind of short albums, right? Leaflets has 7 tracks. Just important to note, 7 is a divine number in Islam. It represents perfection and completion. Mars, the Inhabited Planet, has 8 tracks. And then Power at the Rate of My Dream has 5 tracks and is technically in the EP category on Spotify and the DSPs. So there was a world where instead of getting 3 projects, Jay could have condensed this into 1 project. But they were split up, and knowing Jay Electronica, there's intention there. I don't know it yet. I'll preface this video with saying I haven't kind of figured it out. Like, part of the dope part about being a fan of Jay Electronica is kind of figuring it out, the Easter eggs, letting things soak in, letting things hit you. That's why I didn't do this video right away. I started with the Cardi B video. I know a lot of people in my comments like, when are you gonna do with Jay Electronica? Yo, he dropped 3 projects, and I'm trying to listen, to digest, to understand, to study up on it, and I still don't have everything figured out, so I'm not pretending to. So if you want to discuss this album, truthfully, a discussion, hit me in the comments, man. We could talk about it. But so what's up with the albums, right? The albums are, to me, are just as mysterious and unpredictable as Jay Elect is, right? And if you're a Jay Elect fan for a long time, then you know he's very mysterious. He's very unpredictable. Comes out of the blue, like disappears for a long time, then drops, very active, disappears. Things happen seemingly without rhyme or reason. Even if he does have intention, it's not always like apparent to us. There's some things that you can count on for this album that are present to this album, like Louis Farrakhan sound bites, always throughout his music, and just sound bites in general. He uses a lot of skits and stuff over beats in his music, but now more prevalent than ever. So a lot of Louis Farrakhan sound bites, definitely soulful beats, slow rolling soulful beats. And then there's these thought-provoking rhymes, sometimes provocative rhymes, but lyrics that make you think. And that's kind of JLX's power, right? Like, who am I in this world? Where do I come from? Where am I going? Very, very much knowledge of self, awareness, powerful type of rhymes. All of the albums are structured, all 3 projects, with these long sound bites, and even joints like Real Live Alchemy have no raps whatsoever on Real Live Alchemy, but bites from Farrakhan stitched together with interview clips from Muhammad Ali. So it's kind of a journey, so to speak, a lot of these joints. Dr. Wesley Muhammad provides a lot of the talk track on the Power Project. So there's a lot of skits, talk, and narration throughout this whole thing. Not a ton of rapping. On Abracadabra, right, the opening track on Leaflets, JLX starts with an interlude from Diddy, speaking about long talk tracks. Interlude from Diddy, I'm not sure when it was recorded, but basically Diddy telling JLX to drop the album. You know, he's like, yo, JLX asked me to say something for his album. I hope he drops it this time. It's kind of the crux of it, because he takes long. And if you know JLX lore, that goes back to his breakout record, Exhibit C, where he had the lyric, Nas hit me up on the phone, said, what you waiting on? Tip hit me up with a tweet, said, what you waiting on? Diddy send a text every hour on the dot saying, when you gonna drop that verse, and you taking long. So again, if you know JLX, you know the JLX lore, He sits on music for a long time. He takes a long time to put music out. And the Diddy intro was referencing just that. So having Diddy on your album in 2025 at this point is absolutely a choice. But Jay Elect never has been the type to be politically correct or hold his tongue. He has a real relationship with Diddy that he's had for years, as it's evident. So you could try to kind of say what you want, but if anybody's gonna have Diddy on their album in 2025, it's Jay Elect. So it's the most expected thing. You know what I'm saying? And just going back to the Diddy thing, there's a track called 4,400,000,000 / The Worst Is Yet to Come, and he actually raps about his relationship with Diddy. It's like eyebrow raising what he said, but he says, systems activated. I lay back and peep from on the high and up close and get acclimated. I was living with Puff and Cass and never showed up in the affidavit. I'm a smoother criminal than Michael Jackson, maybe. Hov been such a brother to me and so patient with me. I gave him 19 albums in one day and he ain't had to pay me. So that's the 19 albums thing I was referencing earlier. But you know, I was living with Puff and Cass and never showed up in the affidavit. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, Jay Elect didn't show up in the paperwork. I don't know what he's alluding to. It could just kind of be one of those slick rhymes. I don't know what he knows or what he's seen or what perspective he even has on what went down. But it's definitely a curious lyric, right? So going back to the opening track that I was talking about on Leaflets, the Abracadabra track, Conductor produced it. Hit Boy has production on the Power project. Conductor did Abracadabra on the Leaflets project, and you know, just listening to that first joint, you get like, it starts with a long Farrakhan, you know, it starts with the Diddy intro, then a long Farrakhan soundbite, and then it's about 2.5 minutes before we even hear our first rhyme from Jay Elect. And I say all that because it's indicative of what the project is. If you listen to that song, it's indicative of what all these projects are. But you know, his rhymes are potent. You know what I'm saying? Like caution, I'm a fiery hot ball of various degrees of energy. You couldn't imagine that just beginning me. And it's just clear to anybody who watched me with eyes that I walk around with total disregard for the enemy. The entire trajectory of my career scream fuck the industry. Yet you can't have a debate about the greats and not mention me. And you know, it's kind of Jay Elect in a nutshell a little bit, right? Like he kicks these rhymes, these things of that he existed, his essence, his soul existed, and is rooted in something very deep and historic and biblical and scientific. Right? It is a lot of like his lore. But and then, you know, I walk around with total disregard for the enemy. He says whatever the fuck he wants to say. The entire trajectory of my career scream fuck the industry. He doesn't do things as normal rappers would, as normal musicians would in this industry. Jay Elect definitely marches to the beat of his own drum. And then yet you can't have a debate about the greats and not mention me. He's still gonna talk his shit. Like, he's not that far removed that, yo, I still rap to be in the conversation. And I thought that was interesting on Abracadabra, because just in those little bars, it kind of gives you a good amount of what Jay Elect is about throughout his whole career and who he is as an artist and his essence. And then he has a song called, you know, there is an interesting through line, though. He has a song called Is It Possible That the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is Still Physically Alive? And that's the title. That is the title of the song. Is it possible that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is still physically alive? Title of the song. In it, Jay Elect raps about the Battle of Los Angeles, a military incident that happened in 1942, where our Air Force shot at an unidentified flying object believed to be carrying out an attack from Japan. But also within the Nation of Islam, believed that UFO, that unidentified flying object, was the wheel or the mother plane, as it's referred to. I don't pretend to know a whole lot about this, so I will speak about it in very broad strokes. If you know more, again, in the comments, please educate us. But you know, then we get to this outro on that song that tells the story of Elijah Muhammad being arrested and interrogated about the mother wheel and his knowledge of the mother wheel, right? And I'm gonna get into that in a second. Then right after comes a song called Japan Airlines 1628, which is a reference to a Japanese cargo plane that flew in 1986, and the crew reported seeing 3 UFOs while flying over Alaska, right? And then JLX says something like this on that record. He said, I went from nothing to something like the originator. The hell I was fashioned and was hot as the incinerator. People say this life that we live in is a simulator, matrix with an architect, oracle, and a generator. False rabbis and imams is mainly innovators. Meanwhile, Satan done deceived the whole world. You feel it in your icy veins. It's a cold world. Another day, another brick to the face like old girl. You got to learn to take it in stride and let your light shine. You get what you strive for in this transitory lifetime. The devil ruled for thousands of years, and now it's Christ's time. Again, talking about something bigger than himself, something biblical, something, deeply religious, and then just the state of the world and where we're at, right? But, the whole significance of that, remember, I'm talking about it went from, is it possible that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is still physically alive? And the next song is Japan Airlines 1628. That first song talks about the wheel, the mother plane, the UFO. The Japan Airlines 1628 is a reference to the crew seeing unidentified flying objects, right? So the raps are all potent, right? And theme wise, a lot of these projects, and it crosses over, especially into the Mars project, the belief in this thing called the mother plane, right? Which ultimately, through the teachings of Elijah Muhammad and beliefs within the Nation of Islam, is that this mother plane is going to ultimately lead to a black utopia. I gloss over a lot of what happens in between and how it's said that we get to this black utopia because, again, I'm not well versed in it, and I don't want to mess up the lore, the teachings, the belief of whatever somebody believes. So I'm glossing over major parts. If you know it, definitely. But those are the broad strokes. So this thing, this mother plane, the wheel, is something that people who follow Elijah Muhammad believe in. So by the time we get to the second album, Mars, the Inhabited Planet, it's almost a continuation of what he's saying on Leaflets. He has a song on there called Letter to Mars, and JLX, it just feels like it's directly connected to this theme that is persistent throughout his music of the wheel, the mother plane, black utopia, the future, a prosperous future of something greater for black people. So I thought that was interesting. That was an interesting through line. It's something that I'm still trying to figure out and absorb. That's why it took me a little while to get to this video again. The song titles throughout are mostly long, drawn out statements. Like, I told you about the one, is it possible that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is still physically alive? That's the song title. Another song title that he has is, and this is the full song title, remember that one time Trump tweaked on Zelensky in the White House. He has another song title called Anyone Else Know How to Work Ruby Slippers. He has another song title called If You Don't Do It For You, ... Shine For Me. So these long drawn out statements as song titles makes me think of Chris Crack. Shout out to Chris Crack, dope rapper and producer from Chicago. That's a style that for me that I associate with Chris Crack, that Chris Crack made famous of. He just has these amazing, intriguing song titles, and then he could rap his ass off, and he's making beats now as well. So shout out to Chris Crack. I know there's a lot of talk on the internet now about where that style of song title originate from. We also saw Andre 3000 do it. I know it personally, like consistency set as a style and attached to somebody's musical identity from Chris Crack. If JLX got it from there, was inspired by that, I don't know. That's for him to say. But shout out to Chris Crack. But part of the greatness of JLX is trying to figure out the message, the Easter eggs, and then part of the frustration with JLX, if you could call it that, is not having all of the context, right? And it's almost two sides of the same coin. JLX is no doubt a dope MC, but to me, it doesn't always come together with him. Like it doesn't. It's not neat the way it comes together, and when it does come, it it drops out the sky, out the blue, comes sporadically. We're never quite expecting it. And here I'm getting into my just feelings on the overall music. I think it's cool. I think it's cool that we got new Electronica music. Again, I think he's a dope MC, so I enjoy kind of listening through and picking through the rhymes. If I'm being real, I wanted more rapping. I wanted more song structure. There's a lot of sound bites. There's like minutes and minutes of sound bites at a time, some soulful singing, but it takes a long time to get to the raps with Jay Elect on this. Like it feels contradictory what I'm gonna say, but it definitely feels focused because he's telling us something. There's a message here, there's stories here, there's things that I think are meant to uplift and inspire people. So there's definitely a focus, but it feels like an unfocused focus. If that like his focus is unfocused, if that makes sense, right? Maybe it's a new format and this is just who he is. I'm intrigued by these projects. I don't know that like I love them. I don't know how often I will return to this. I would love to hear more context around it as he starts to, I don't know if he does interviews. He is not known for doing interviews. I know he's active on Twitter in spurts, like maybe there's some type of explanations or some other content that will help tie it together or clue us into what his intentions were on this album. But I'll be honest, at this point, and it's only been out for a few days, there's a lot that I don't get. So maybe we get there. Maybe it gets greater later through conversation, through some of the things that y'all tell me in the comments. But right now, like, I think it's cool. I think it's like, I appreciate it. I think the rapping is dope. But I can't sit here and say I love it. I can't sit here and say album of the year. I can't sit here and say, yo, this is what I was waiting for. I'm still sitting here like, yo, what is this? If that makes sense. But those are just my thoughts, man. Hit me in the comments. Let me know what you think about the new Jay Electronica projects, and we'll talk about that. All right? Peace.